What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are giving you a state of the market and some stock picks for April 22nd, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide daily and weekly updates, get you prepared for the day and the week ahead. So let's get right into state of the market. Ultimately, this video is pretty much going to be strictly state of the market. My stock picks are going to be the same ones that I've always picked. Something I've talked about going into this year was you needed to be focused on industry leaders and what they're doing. And this is why this channel is called Beta Memoirs, because I focus on beta stocks and those big blue chip stocks because they're the ones that lead the pack. And if you haven't noticed over the past couple of months, there's a lot of mid cap, small caps that have just been getting ripped apart during this year. Even from last year, a lot of them have been beaten down pretty bad and never recovered. So value is taking a lot of the strength. People are moving a lot of money into value because of the fact that is almost a necessity. You're going to need food and water, so people are invested heavily in Walmart and Target and any kind of utilities out there that people want to see. Defensive stocks are also a big one as well. I don't trade those. In my mind, at any point, those things can come crashing down if the war was to end. Not saying that doesn't look like it's in any foreseeable future, but you get a lot of volatility in the beta stocks. This is why I play the beta stocks, because you get bigger percentage moves in them moving forward. So being said, the SPX, it sold off today. We had Powell, something I've been talking about all week. We were going to have Powell today. The first showing of Powell at 10 o'clock was a pre-recorded video. Obviously, that wasn't going to do anything. But then he had another appearance where he was actually live and was talking essentially about the state of the markets, inflation, and rate raises. And he was essentially talking about a 50-point basis move going into the next meeting. Now, none of this stuff is new. The market is well aware of this stuff, but the market could be saying, okay, we're only priced in a 25-point basis move. Now we got another 50-point basis move. So what does that mean? Is the market going to try to incorporate that? What does that look like? We've had a 15% correction. I don't think we're going to go back to a 50% correction or what we had back in the early part of the year. So if we look at the early part of the year, that's probably too far back. But even still, I mean, we had our low here, one of our lowest points here at the 41, 14 mark. I don't really see us getting that low. The big thing here to watch is, I've been talking about this level. I kind of wanted us to get down to this 42.76. Is a really big level I am watching. This is the 50 EMA, something I talked about before this move actually happened. And something I talked about yesterday was you have to really watch Tesla closely. It crushed earnings, and coming out this morning out of the gate, it struggled. If you know anything about price action, you're watching the candlesticks, you see how bad it struggled. It was a fight. Even pre-market, it didn't look exciting, because I thought Tesla would have been up almost at least 1,100 this morning, and it was not. It was really struggling, and even out of the gate, it sold off normally, because it's normally what happens after any kind of bump overnight, and started to sell, and then it attempted to go, and it just wouldn't go, and started selling. That was one of the biggest red flags you can see in the market. So I say pay attention to big blue chip stocks and watch price action. If you watch it long enough, you'll see the flow. You'll see what's happening in action. If the buyers are winning, or the losers or the sellers are winning, and you can see that struggle through the candlesticks. And this is why I watch the 1 hour sticks, because you can see it much better, much clearer. And a lot of lower time frames. I've been playing a little bit on the 15, and there is a lot of noise on that 15 level. So that's something to be mindful of. I do like the 1 hour, maybe for entry for 15, but ultimately that 1 hour is really telling you the truth of what's going on. And normally a lot of times you can be faked out and not let it play out the way you think it was going to play out. So, but being said, coming into today, we gapped up and actually started pushing pretty hard. Came into this supply zone up here at the 45.12, and we struggled there. I actually took puts into that zone, but actually got shaken out because this is what I was talking about, the 15 minutes. It attempted on the second candle I got in after this push, and then it attempted to sell. It wouldn't go. And so I was kind of worried about that. Obviously the Powell thing pre-recorded wasn't going to do anything. It really wasn't until Powell came on around 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So you're looking around this time. I mean, the market started selling going into it. That hour going in, it really started selling pretty heavy. And then it really started flushing hard after him talking about a 50-point basis move and being really general about everything. The market doesn't like Powell being general. Powell can also not give details because he knows the market will make moves on the words that he puts out there. So he has to be very generic on how he approaches any kind of public appearance. He has to be very generic because if he says anything, it can sway markets very easily. And so, being said, the market, again, throwing a fit, they want to know details. So they always take it upon themselves to try to price stuff in. 50-point basis move added in the next meeting. So we're going to price it in now, or what are we doing? A lot of these companies, I mean, Tesla crushed it. There are a lot of forward guidance isn't looking the greatest. But I can almost say they've been talking about a lot of these different issues before, and they've overcome them and done extremely well during a pandemic. So if they've did that coming out of a pandemic, going into a war, sanctions, lockdowns, how much is that going to affect? We're really going to see that next week with your Apple and your Amazon and see really what's going on there. Nonetheless, the market flushed pretty heavy. So going into tomorrow, what I'm really looking for is the market to come back up and retest this 44.15. I'm actually looking for a short entry at that point, and then watching this 43.70. If we break that, so I think we easily flush down to 43.28, and then from that point, it really just matters. I don't think we're going to flush too far down. Again, I look back on the daily here. I think we could flush down to the 42.49 mark. We'd still be very bullish in this case, and so that's something not to forget. You need to zoom out on all of these and see what the big picture is, because a lot of times you get this is why a lot of times you get in the 1 minute stuff and it really throws you off, because you need to look at big picture and really see what's going on. Being said, if we do flush, I mean, we can hold right here and we can get back up tomorrow. Again, there was no real news. There was no new news to flush us like this. Again, this might just be the market having a fit. But again, we still need to pull back. Something I talked about in this massive rip here is that we needed to back test, and we weren't doing that. And so you're going to get flushes like this until some of these levels are tested, and then head back up. So we have to see. But again, going into tomorrow, it is Friday. A lot of people aren't going to hold, especially after this move going into there. I could be wrong. A lot of people don't want to hold when you get massive flush like this in a day. So we really have to watch that 43.71 mark tomorrow. See if it holds, and if it doesn't, go from that point. But again, we have some bigger levels here to watch. That 50 monthly is something I talked about. You're essentially, you wanted to, we broke back below the 20 on the weekly, and we retested it, and now we're flushing down to test that 50. Are we going to get a flush back up, or what is the case? So there's a lot of different scenarios that can play out here. But these are key levels, and they are points where the market can change direction. These are major key points, so that's something you have to really watch, especially the weekly and the monthlies. You get really big bounces out of them, so just be mindful of that. Again, these aren't precise. That's one thing you have to keep in mind. It is, a lot of these are monthly candles, right? So your daily can spike way down here, and then it could wick way back up in here on a weekly candle and still be in play to go up. So just keep that in mind. You have to always keep higher time frames in mind. It's always important to look every day and see what the higher time frame is, especially the daily you should be watching. If you're a long-term investor, daily is still good. I think it's good to find these zones on the daily, and then take position from there. But again, going into tomorrow, we have to see how we open. Ultimately, if you don't follow me at Hemi137 on Twitter, I give daily updates there, and that would really help you out because, again, the market can change a lot overnight, and that's important to know. But ultimately, that's what we're looking at. We have to see where we open up. Again, I don't see us pushing back up. More than likely, either we hold a break here tomorrow and then probably test this level, but ultimately, I think we can head probably back down to 4,300. I don't think we're going to last there very long. It really just depends. And then we got the FOMC behind it. Maybe that's what we're preparing for. Maybe this move up here was pre-earnings, and that's all we're going to get. Now we're going to head back down for the FOMC and see what we're going to get, and then head back up. So we might play this big range of chop for a majority of this year. Could very well happen. Maybe we head back down and we chop around here, get through the FOMC, hold here, and then push back up for the next earnings. It could very well happen. Again, there's no real good news, no real bad news to just sink the market. It's all normal news, so you're going to get a lot of chop and push here, which isn't the greatest of markets to be in, but you have to be able to adapt. This isn't just buy the dip market. You've had that for the past year and a half. So now you're starting to get what real markets are, and it's obviously not much fun, but everything does cycle. It's just surviving until then. Don't have to take position every single day, get in, get out type of thing, and manage risk. Jumping into Bitcoin real quick, you have to be mindful about this. Bitcoin is running exactly like the market. It's running in parallel with the market. I think crypto in itself is tied so close to a lot of these big corporations that I think we're going to see. I think this is just going to be a normal thing now. I think you're going to see Bitcoin run in parallel with the market. So when the market starts really boosting, I almost guarantee that Bitcoin is going to do the same thing. A lot of our payment systems are starting to be built on blockchain. And government is pushing extremely hard on a stable coin too. So you have to keep all this stuff in mind. This is why I don't think Bitcoin is going to get as volatile as it used to be. And maybe people were used to, these massive rips on Bitcoin. I think that you're starting to get more of a normalization in Bitcoin. So you're not seeing, yes, you get these flushes, but the market's volatile right now. But I think you're going to see Bitcoin move much like the index of the market. So it's something to keep on watch, something to keep in, again, it might be the new thing. And so just like the stock market, your other coins, your Cardanos, your Solanas, your ETH, right? I think a lot of those are going to play much like a lot of your big corporations and how they move. You're going to have some that are probably more volatile than others. But Bitcoin might be essentially the index of the S&P 500. So it's something, again, to keep in watch going forward. And again, the big ones tomorrow, you got to watch the big guys tomorrow, because there's a lot of room here. Tesla could flush if the market starts to sell. It's already sold this big candle already because of killer earnings. It doesn't matter. The market's going to sell, especially when you start talking about inflation and raising rates. Right, it costs more to do essentially running normal operations. So these things will start to suffer a little bit more. And again, people will buy value stocks, your needs, your necessities, and put their money there. So Tesla, big one to watch. What key level to watch here is 971. It breaks that. You got some other levels here at 941. You got the 200 sitting at essentially that 900 psychological level. And you got some levels below that. Again, this thing can really flush because you have this parabolic move. Let's see what happens tomorrow. So this is why it's important to see how we open. Big one to watch on Google here is the 24.95 mark here. We break this, we could fall pretty clean from that point. possibly even down to the 23.93, which we haven't seen in a long time. They do have earnings next week. I think out of all of them, it'd probably be Google and Apple that do the best, to be honest, aside from Tesla. So if they do bad, we can really be in for it moving forward. Shop got destroyed today. Amazon started selling today. We can look at Amazon real quick. This one you got to be careful. We could get a retest of this, essentially that 3K mark tomorrow. If we get a retest of that and get rejected off that, that could be a good put entry for tomorrow. Again, once these things start going, they really start to go. Amazon's one of them that really starts to head down. Again, you might be having a lot of premium for earnings around the corner, so something to keep in mind next week. You should be dealing with that. So some of these you got to be careful with because they already have premium built in, and so you're probably not going to get as big of moves. So you have to be mindful of that. Just kind of looking for some of the other ones that possibly. This one here was a big one today. I missed. I was actually watching this one closely. Chipotle, looking for possibly a 200 retest. So if we get a pushback up to 16, if we gap up tomorrow, you could look for a put entry there. Again, you have a massive rip down and no bounce. If it's flat tomorrow, this thing is bouncing. You could short it at that bounce, but I think if it's flat tomorrow, you're going to get a huge bounce. And some of these, so some of them to keep on watch. Again, value Target's been really big, but Target's starting to sell. This could actually tank pretty heavy tomorrow if it does not hold. So if your value starts failing as well, a lot of stuff is just going to come down. And your banks are giving out, heading back down. Goldman Sachs, a big dip down. So you really got to watch this. Everything is pulling down. When everything pulls down, that means the whole market will come down. The banks have ultimately been holding the index up. And so now that they're selling, it's just all going to come crumbling down. Don't guess. Well, mark key levels. If you're going long, you really need to make sure it bases first. Or if you're going to do in and out, I do in and out scalps on key levels. On the bounce, I know I only have a matter of seconds to get out. But typically, if I'm going to hold longer than a couple minutes, I wait for a base and then go from that point, or stay with trend, because right now the trend is starting to go down. If we have a second day of trend down, wait for the bounce to catch your short entries. Don't enter right after it's gapped down. It's one good way to get crushed. So nonetheless, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.